Oh.
Did you know that small dogs weighing less than 30 pounds are now responsible for protecting hundreds of farms spread across thousands of acres in rural Texas? Among the vast cornfields, a silent enemy multiplies inside barns, silos, and storage sheds. Rats. These seemingly harmless rodents represent one of the most persistent and costly threats to American farmers. They consume stored grain, contaminate silage, and cause significant post-harvest losses, when every bushel matters for the profitability of the season. The problem goes far beyond the direct loss of food. Rodents are carriers of serious diseases such as salmonellosis and leptospirosis, which can affect both livestock and farm workers. Their continuously growing teeth drive them to gnaw on electrical wires and control systems, causing short circuits and, not rarely, fires in storage structures. On large farms that move tons of grain each day, these damages can easily exceed tens of thousands of dollars per harvest. For decades, producers have relied on traditional control methods: chemical poisons, traps, and barn cats. However, rodenticides pose the risk of secondary poisoning, affecting raptors, dogs, and other natural predators, while traps only cover small areas and require constant maintenance. Cats, though iconic on farms, rarely manage to control large infestations effectively. Today, that role is being redefined. Specialized teams of rat-hunting dogs are taking the front line in controlling infestations. Capable of eliminating up to 425 rats in a single night, these dogs have transformed the concept of rural biosecurity. But how exactly do these teams operate? Which breeds dominate this task? And how much money do they really save for Texas corn producers? The role of rat-hunting dogs, known as ratters, has deep roots in European rural history. Since the 18th century, small terriers were bred specifically to eliminate rats in barns, mines, and even aboard trading ships. In Victorian England, these dogs were an essential part of agricultural life, and even took part in hunting competitions held in arenas, where their speed and precision were evaluated. When British and Scottish settlers migrated to North America, they brought these working dogs with them, adapting them to new farming environments and local pests. This gave rise to the North American ratter lineage, now widely used in agricultural states such as Texas, Iowa, and Nebraska. These dogs share a genetic profile shaped by purpose, high prey drive, courage against aggressive quarry, an exceptional sense of smell, and agility in tight spaces such as tunnels or hay piles. Their characteristic attack, known as the bite shake, ensures a quick, humane kill that reduces the risk of injury to the dog or prolonged suffering of the rodent. Their physical endurance also allows them to operate for long hours in hot, dusty conditions. Among the most common breeds in the United States are the rat terrier, a symbol of American agriculture, the Jack Russell Terrier and Parson Russell Terrier, known for their explosive energy, the Patterdale Terrier and Jag Terrier, bred in Britain and Germany for underground hunting, the Border Terrier, valued for its balanced temperament, the miniature Dachshund, an expert in tunnels, and the Feist, a small farm dog developed in the southern United States. Unlike cats, which rely on territorial patrols and hunt alone, dogs work in coordinated teams under human direction, covering large areas quickly and efficiently. When choosing a good ratter for a Texas farm, factors such as steady temperament, body weight between 10 and 30 pounds, easy to clean coat, joint health, and high heat tolerance are decisive. These elements turn instinct into measurable field performance. The work of rodent hunting dogs on Texas farms follows a precise protocol designed to maximize efficiency and minimize risk. It all begins with careful planning. Before the dogs are released, the team performs a detailed inspection of affected areas, identifying trails, burrows, and feeding points. These are recorded on a heat map that guides nighttime movement and defines hotspots for capture around barns, feed troughs, hay bales, and the bases of metal silos. Hunts usually take place at night, when rodents are most active. Red or green lights, headlamps, and portable spotlights illuminate the terrain without disturbing the dogs. The team positions blockers, people or barriers preventing rats from escaping, and flushers who use rakes or boards to drive them out of hiding. The dogs are then released in short hunting rotations, usually 5 to 10 minutes, to avoid overheating, particularly during the Texas summer. No rodenticides are used during the operation, eliminating the risk of secondary poisoning. Support tools include tongs for removal, containment boxes or sacks, counting buckets, and sometimes thermal cameras to detect nests under floors or hay piles. Success is measured by the capture rate per hour and the visible reduction of infestation signs in the following weeks. Safety is treated as a priority. Dogs are vaccinated against leptospirosis, receive regular parasite control, and undergo veterinary inspection. The crew wears reinforced boots, gloves, and protective clothing. Carcasses are disposed of according to local sanitation regulations, and hydration breaks are mandatory throughout the night. From an ethical and legal standpoint, every operation is carried out on private property with the owner's consent. Rodents must be dispatched quickly to minimize suffering, and the team must remain alert to avoid harming non-target species. Performance is evaluated 30 to 60 days after intervention to confirm whether the environment remains stable and rodent-free. On a Texas corn farm, every pound lost translates directly into wasted money. Rat infestations have a measurable impact on profitability, particularly in the post-harvest phase, when grain is stored in silos or barns. U.S. agricultural studies estimate that rodents can consume or contaminate between 3% and 10% of total stored volume. For a mid-sized farm storing 50,000 bushels of corn, 5% loss equals roughly 2,500 spoiled bushels, about $15,000 to $18,000 in annual losses, depending on market prices. That figure doesn't include indirect damage, such as chewed wiring, broken sensors, and compromised control systems, which can raise losses by over 20%. By replacing traditional methods with rodent hunting dog teams, producers have reported sharp reductions in infestations and maintenance costs. In documented operations, hiring a specialized group costs between $300 and $600 per night, with results ranging from 200 to 425 rats removed in a single session. This translates to an average cost of less than $2 per rodent eliminated, without the recurring expenses of poison replenishment or handling of poisoned carcasses, typical burdens of chemical control. The use of rodenticides, besides being costly, carries ecological and sanitary risks: soil contamination, death of predatory birds, and accidental poisoning of dogs and cats. Conventional traps, on the other hand, require extensive labor and daily monitoring, making them impractical for large-scale farms. Secondary benefits include lower chemical contamination of grain, fewer carcasses in inaccessible areas, improved biosecurity, and compliance with standards required by large buyers and cooperatives. The ideal practice is to perform seasonal sweeps, especially during harvest and storage peaks, combined with rapid response to localized outbreaks. The result is a cleaner, safer, and more financially sustainable pest control system. The use of rodent hunting dogs on Texas farms represents a major step forward in biological pest control. These animals do not completely replace traditional methods, but they fill the gap between prevention and immediate removal, acting quickly in areas where poisons, traps, or barn cats lose effectiveness. In large and complex environments such as silos and grain storage facilities, these dogs have become precision tools, an extension of modern farm management that combines animal instinct, professional training, and technical monitoring. Despite their efficiency, there are operational limits that demand attention. Teams must be professionally trained, following strict safety protocols for both dogs and handlers. The Texas heat requires frequent breaks and careful hydration management to prevent overheating. There must also be rigorous control to avoid the killing of non-target species and to maintain ecological balance. Additionally, biosecurity standards must remain high to ensure that the operations do not contaminate grain or storage structures. Implementing this method requires a structured and practical plan. First, a risk audit should identify critical areas of the farm and the main rodent access points. Next, the producer can hire or train a team of 2 to 6 dogs, depending on the property's size. The following step is to establish a monitoring and capture log, allowing the producer to track impact across harvest cycles. Finally, the control system must be integrated with preventive measures: waste cleanup, proper sealing of silos, maintenance of feed troughs, and correct grain handling. The image of 425 rats eliminated in a single night encapsulates the effectiveness of this approach. More than just a striking number, it reflects the synergy between tactics, genetics, and intelligent management, factors that now translate into real economic savings, improved food safety, and greater sustainability for Texas corn farms. In the United States, rat and mouse populations represent one of the most silent, yet damaging problems faced by agriculture. Studies from the USDA estimate that the direct and indirect losses caused by these animals exceed $19 billion per year. These costs include not only food consumed or destroyed, but also damage to infrastructure, public health, and livestock productivity. In Texas, a state with vast areas dedicated to grain, cotton, and cattle production, the problem is even more evident. Rodents find ideal conditions for proliferation in corn and wheat silos, cattle feed storage, and barns with constant access to food and water. A single pair of rats can produce up to 2,000 offspring over the course of a year, which explains how infestations spread quickly and become nearly uncontrollable. The damages go far beyond direct consumption. Sacks are destroyed by sharp teeth, wooden structures suffer continuous wear, and chewed electrical wires can cause short circuits and fires in storage facilities. In addition, every rat leaves behind urine and feces, contaminating feed and food intended both for livestock and for human consumption. This contamination leads to losses that exceed the value of wasted food, as entire batches must often be discarded due to sanitary risk. The most concerning aspect is linked to health. Rats and mice are vectors of several diseases, including leptospirosis, salmonellosis, and hantavirus. In rural environments, these pathogens can spread quickly among cattle, swine, and poultry, compromising the production of meat, milk, and eggs. A large-scale outbreak represents not only direct financial losses, but also a threat to food security and to the health of rural communities. For these reasons, rodent control is considered an essential element in maintaining the agricultural competitiveness of Texas and, ultimately, the economy of the United States. Rodent control has always been a constant challenge for agricultural societies. In the United States, since the early days of colonization, farmers had to deal with infestations that directly threatened grain storage, livestock health, and rural community safety. Before the widespread use of chemical pesticides in the 20th century, one of the most effective solutions was the use of specially trained dogs to hunt rats. The preference was for small to medium-sized animals, equipped with agility, courage, and great physical endurance. Unlike guard dogs or herding dogs, whose roles were to protect or drive livestock, rat hunting dogs were selected for very specific attributes: speed in chasing small prey, the ability to enter tunnels and narrow holes, sharp reflexes, and a nearly continuous predatory instinct. These characteristics did not emerge by chance. They were the result of centuries of selective breeding, first in Europe and later adapted to North American rural conditions. In Victorian England, there were already reports of ratting competitions, where terriers eliminated dozens of rats within minutes. This practice was not only a form of entertainment, but also reinforced the usefulness of these breeds in rural settings. With the migration of European settlers to the United States, dogs with these traits were brought along and employed on farms as early as the 18th century. The agricultural life of Texas, marked by vast barns, silos, and extensive cattle operations, provided an ideal setting for the work of these animals. Their ability to operate in groups became a decisive advantage. While some dogs flushed rodents from hiding places, others waited to capture them as soon as they attempted to escape. This collective strategy multiplied efficiency, turning small packs of terriers into true biological control tools. Over generations, breeds such as the rat terrier, developed in the United States itself, emerged precisely from the need for a dog adapted to the American rural environment. Others, like the Jack Russell Terrier and the Patterdale Terrier, came from the United Kingdom and found in Texas the perfect stage for their abilities. Over time, these dogs stopped being merely improvised helpers and began occupying a formal role in rural management. Their function, often passed from farm to farm as part of local agricultural culture, became consolidated as an economic and sustainable alternative to the exclusive use of traps and poisons. In Texas, 4 terrier breeds stand out in the fight against rodents. Each carries its own history, shaped by the human need to protect agricultural production from pests. The Rat Terrier is the symbol of the American farm dog. It originated in the United States in the 19th century, from the crossbreeding of English terriers with local breeds. It was selected to be fast, intelligent, and versatile. It weighs between 10 and 25 pounds, reaches up to 18 inches in height, and has a short coat, well suited for the Texas heat. In barns and silos, it acts as an attentive hunter, sniffing out hidden burrows and eliminating rats with precision. Its physical endurance makes it ideal for daily work on farms. The Jack Russell Terrier was developed in Victorian England by Reverend John Russell to pursue foxes in their dens. Compact and muscular, it weighs an average of 15 pounds and measures up to 15 inches. Its energy seems inexhaustible. It enters narrow holes, hunts in debris and hay bales, and attacks with explosive speed. It is less adapted to extreme heat, but its intensity compensates for this. When working in groups, it can eliminate dozens of rodents in just a few minutes. The Patterdale Terrier came from northern England, in the Lake District region, where it was used to hunt foxes and badgers in rugged terrain. It arrived in the United States in the 20th century and found in Texas fertile ground to demonstrate its strength. It weighs between 11 and 15 pounds, has a compact body and powerful jaws. Unlike other breeds, it was bred not for looks but for working efficiency. It is tireless, determined, and has a high pain threshold. It is ideal for areas with heavy infestations, where speed must combine with force. In collective hunts, it is the one that holds and neutralizes more resistant prey. The Border Terrier completes the group. Developed along the border between England and Scotland, it hunted foxes that attacked sheep herds. It has a long body, narrow chest, and an otter-like head. It weighs up to 16 pounds and measures about 16 inches. Its wiry coat protects it in harsh terrain. Unlike the others, it is more steady than explosive. It works well alone or in groups and excels in open rocky areas, which are common in parts of Texas. Each breed carries unique advantages. The Rat Terrier is versatile and adapted to heat. The Jack Russell is explosive and fast in confined spaces. The Patterdale combines strength and tenacity, ideal for large infestations. The Border Terrier endures long working hours, efficient in difficult terrain. Together, these 4 breeds form a biological arsenal against rodents. In rural environments of the United States, rodent presence is most intense in areas with abundant food and shelter. Hay storage, grain barns, and cattle pens with leftover feed represent primary concentrations of these pests. This is the setting where rat-hunting dogs are deployed. Their release is strategic, directed at areas previously mapped by farmers, where nocturnal rodent activity is greatest. Packwork is marked by a division of functions. Dogs with the sharpest sense of smell focus on locating nests and underground roots. More agile animals with quick reflexes position themselves at narrow passages, acting as blockers. The more resistant specimens take on the capture role, directly attacking when rats attempt to escape. This organization is not strictly trained, but is the result of instinct, repeated practice, and selective breeding across generations. In nighttime operations, especially on medium and large-scale farms, records indicate that a pack of fewer than 10 dogs can eliminate between 150 and 250 rats in just a few hours. These numbers far exceed the efficiency of conventional mechanical traps, which capture on average a single rodent per device in a 24-hour cycle. Moreover, unlike chemical rodenticides, which pose risks to raptors, herding dogs, and even dairy cattle, the use of dogs drastically reduces the chance of secondary poisoning. Another key factor is environmental impact. Using dogs prevents soil and water contamination by toxic compounds found in commercial baits, preserving not only animal health but also human food safety. For farmers, this balance translates into direct savings. It is estimated that rodent damage in U.S. agricultural areas causes losses exceeding $20 billion annually, including grain storage losses, damage to wooden infrastructure, and the spread of disease. Hunting with dogs does not completely eliminate the threat, but it represents a highly effective control measure when integrated with other rural management practices. Rodent control in agricultural areas of the United States has historically relied on three main strategies: chemical rodenticides, mechanical traps, and, more recently, the systematic use of hunting dogs. Each method presents advantages and limitations that must be evaluated according to farm scale, crop type, and environmental risks. Rodenticides remain the most widely employed method. Second-generation anticoagulant compounds such as bromadiolone and difethialone offer high mortality rates, capable of reducing local populations by up to 90% after several application cycles. However, their cost is high, especially for farms with large grain storage or extensive pastures. Beyond financial issues, there is the risk of indirect contamination. Cattle, horses, and poultry can ingest residues present in stored feed, while natural predators, such as owls and hawks, often die from consuming poisoned rodents. This collateral damage disrupts ecological balance and generates additional losses for farmers. Mechanical traps, on the other hand, provide a more selective method free of toxins. Pressure traps or multiple capture models are relatively inexpensive and reusable. However, their large-scale effectiveness is limited. Each device covers a restricted area, requires frequent monitoring, and demands constant maintenance for the removal of captured animals. On properties with hundreds of acres, the human effort required to sustain such a system becomes impractical, leading to insufficient coverage. Working terriers, when integrated into rural management, represent an alternative with low operational costs after the initial training phase. Expenses are focused on breeding, feeding, and basic veterinary care, but performance tends to remain stable throughout the animal's working life. Unlike traps, dogs act dynamically, responding to changes in pest behavior and hunting in hard-to-reach places. Furthermore, unlike rodenticides, they leave no chemical residues in the environment, eliminating the risk of contamination for cattle, domestic poultry, or natural predators. This comparison highlights a growing trend among American farmers: the combined use of methods, but with dogs playing an increasingly central role, especially on farms seeking to reduce costs and environmental risks without sacrificing effectiveness in pest control. In rural Texas, the use of terrier dogs for rat hunting remains an essential resource for both agriculture and livestock production. It is a tradition inherited from European immigrants who, since the 19th century, introduced specialized breeds for pest control in rural environments. Over time, this heritage became consolidated as a part of North American agricultural management, not only for its historical value, but above all for its proven efficiency. The presence of these dogs on Texas farms highlights the integration between traditional knowledge and contemporary necessity. More than instinctive hunters, they function as tools of sustainable management, directly protecting grain reserves, preserving herds, and safeguarding agricultural structures such as barns and silos. Their use reduces significant losses that, on a statewide scale, reach billions of dollars. In Texas alone, agriculture and livestock generate more than $150 billion annually, and the vulnerability caused by rodents represents not just an inconvenience, but a direct economic risk for producers. The efficiency of this method also stands out for its continuous and adaptive nature. Unlike artificial systems that require constant replenishment, dogs adjust to environmental variations, hunting across different terrains and responding to changes in pest behavior. This dynamism makes the use of terriers not only a practical solution, but also a resource that remains relevant, even in the face of technological advancements in farming. A context where the balance between Productivity and sustainability is increasingly decisive. The employment of hunting dogs reaffirms its value. In Texas, this practice represents the combination of historical tradition with modern economic strategy, contributing to the preservation of agricultural assets and ensuring the continuity of a sector that remains one of the pillars of the American economy.